Hey, this is Tiffany Visionista. Welcome back to my channel. I'm making a video today about how to learn a different language. The reason I want to make this video is because I think a lot of people have a false presumption and they believe that it's really difficult and intangible to learn a second, third, or fourth language. And most people actually who have learned a second language, who are bilingual, know that that's probably not true, and a lot of people go on to learn a third and fourth language, especially if you live in Europe or abroad in other countries. The reason I think a lot of Americans believe it's difficult to learn a second language is because in our society it's never emphasized enough in the elementary schools and the middle schools and in secondary education and high school. But our country is evolving in terms of education, and I do believe that it is becoming more strongly emphasized, especially in college. Certain colleges require that students take so many semesters of a second language. So there are a lot of resources that are available to anybody, and they're actually for free. But I don't think people have a primary foundation that will allow them to understand how they can learn a second language. So I want to try to spell that out to you in this video. One of the benefits of knowing a second language is it looks really outstanding on a resume, and in addition, if you like to travel, or if you endeavor to travel to a certain country, or you would like to make friends from a different culture, it can be a fantastic resource to have in your repertoire. And then, if you live in America and you know Spanish, or in some parts of our country, maybe Italian, French, Canadian, certain different languages, it's extremely beneficial. I would say, knowing Spanish in America is absolutely a huge asset to have in any job, even research. I believe there are 4 different elements in learning the language, and they begin with reading, writing, speaking, and listening. And in order to really say one person is fluent in a language, I think you have to be able to exercise yourself comfortably in those 4 areas. So in order to start learning how to read a different language, one of the first things you actually can do is go to the library or find a website online that has different news bulletins, maybe even different stories that are written in this language that you're looking at. And what you want to do is you want to visually introduce yourself to the language by just beginning to preview all the words. You could pick up a book and not understand anything, but you are actually learning and assimilating information to a certain extent simply by just looking at all the words. And that's free. There are plenty of books at the library. There are plenty of resources online, and it's a matter of being strategic. But there are so many ways just to start viewing the language, and that is a primary step in beginning to learn a language and eventually be able to read and comprehend the new language. The next step is writing, and usually writing and speaking will become stronger elements in learning a language after you've really exercised the reading and listening. And this is somewhat similar to children who learn a language in their early infancy years, because they're trying to soak in so much from their environment. Their brains are like sponges. And then they start developing their own method, their own personality, their own way they want to communicate what they've learned to other people. So initially they may understand what's going on in their environment. They listen to their parents, they listen to everyone around them, but typically at that point they're not expressing quite a bit because they have not yet mastered the language to a level that allows them to express and communicate effectively. So writing and speaking, I'll address those areas after I address listening. There are podcasts. If you have iTunes, and even if you don't, I know there are podcasts online that are for free. Certain news websites have podcasts daily that you can get access to. Podcasts are just a huge array of topics. Anything from cooking, traveling, learning a language, exercise, fitness, relationships, religion, biographies. Anything you can imagine are available on podcasts nowadays. And there are podcasts that you can subscribe to, so you have a weekly update, a daily update. Wall Street Journal has podcasts that update sometimes 3-4 times a day. So many resources, and you can find podcasts for whatever language you would like to learn, whether it's Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, German, the list goes on and on, obviously. Or English, if you're actually, English is not your first language and you're practicing your English abilities. So, podcasts, initially, you may be listening to the language, but you really don't understand it. It sounds like gibberish. They say when you start learning a language, all the words sound like they're just flowing together, that they're all connected, that there's no separation, because the sound and everything is so new to the brain and to your learning capacity. However, I believe a lot of people give up when it comes to learning a language because they don't give it enough time and they don't give it enough consistency. Instead of trying for 2 or 3 weeks and then giving up, what any person needs to do who really has their heart set on learning another language is make a goal that is reasonable and attainable. So carve out 30 minutes a day. And ideally, it would probably be best to do 15 minutes in the morning and 15 minutes in the evening. And if you're in the early stages, just do the reading and just do the listening. And everything is not going to make sense in the beginning. And what I want to challenge you to do is to really stick with this for at least 2 months. And at that point, you should notice a distinct breakthrough in your development of the new language. Eventually, you want to start incorporating writing into the skills that you practice daily. So if you decide to say, I'm going to spend 30 minutes a day to learn a new language, 15 minutes in the morning, 15 minutes in the evening, hey, you could do 45 minutes. Take 15 minutes on your lunch break and do 15 minutes for reading, looking at the words, do another 15 minutes for listening, and another 15 minutes for writing. Obviously, it's going to be very elementary, the writing that you do initially, because you're taking in so much new information. But if you make a commitment to do something like that for 2 months, I can pretty much guarantee you will start planting significant seeds in owning this language and really beginning to utilize it and understand it and comprehend it. There are many benefits to learning a language. One of them is actually, it is a lot of fun when you can start picking up something that most people feel is completely out of their head and or out of their scope of learning, and really master it, because it's something you can utilize. Math, sciences are somewhat limited in terms of what field you're in. But if you can learn a language, a second language or a third language that is strongly utilized in a region that you live in, you will be able to use it in so many different facets. Whether it's the community of people you go to church with, or you're at a grocery store and someone's stuck because they can't express what they need to the cashier because they don't know enough of that language, or it's in a professional environment. Knowing another language is extremely beneficial in so many aspects, and I'm not even really going in detail here, but I'm scoping on the surface. And also, I remember learning in a linguistics class in college that when you learn a second language, you actually pave and carve out neurological pathways in your brain, which make it easier to learn new material, any new material, which makes it easier for you to connect new dots and information that you gain in your environment day in and day out. Basically, to sum it up, it exercises your brain in a way that no other skill can. Often people who are great at languages are very artistic and creative because they have developed skills in their brain and in their thinking abilities that you can't get from other methods of learning. So my main emphasis in this video is how to learn another language. One of the principles that I want to make clear is that I truly do believe anybody can learn another language. For some people, it will be easier than others. And immersion is not necessarily essential, because what is most essential is the daily commitment and the consistent commitment you make spending time with this language on a regular basis. I know plenty of people who chose a language as their four-year major in college, and they are not fluent in that language. I know plenty of people who I studied abroad with, and they no longer know the language that we studied and we utilized while we were living abroad. A language is a ability that one keeps in their repertoire only when they utilize on a consistent basis. And that even goes for your first language. People who are well-spoken, well-written, they read a lot and they communicate a lot. They utilize the language, and therefore it is an area of expertise and something that they're more advanced in than other people are. Language is truly, truly important. It is a mechanism of expression. If you can communicate effectively, there are just so many things you can do in your life, and it opens so many would-be boundaries and gates that could be there, but because you know how to express what you want to, and you know how to understand and comprehend maybe difficult topics and subjects, because you're constantly challenging yourself to learn something new. You have an advantage because you're constantly growing your mental abilities and your huge database of knowledge. So I want to encourage you to learn a second or third or fourth language. I know some people are extremely gifted and talented in that arena. Again, back to my initial I'd say motivation for making this video is I truly believe anybody can learn a second language. It's a matter of practicing it and making a commitment to spend so much time with it on a regular basis. And it's fun because it's one of those things that you can eventually measure your progress. And if you say, I'm going to spend 30 minutes or 45 minutes every day for 2 months, I guarantee you will be able to measure and track your progress at that point and see how much you've learned. And at that point, it's only going to get easier and easier because you build off of what you already have learned. I hope this video was helpful. There are so many free resources out there. Like I said, we have libraries, we have podcasts. There are so many free podcasts on iTunes. Get creative, explore topics, choose topics that are interesting to you already because it will make learning much simpler. And then finally start finding people who speak this language, and also make sure to, if you can't find someone, if you're learning a language that is not commonly spoken in your area, look for finding people through certain websites. There are certain sites out there that can help you pair up with someone via Skype or other auditory technological gadgets, which will allow you guys to communicate and practice a language. Intercambio. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you found this video to be helpful, and I hope I have inspired and encouraged you to either continue practicing a new language or to take on a new challenge in your life and learn a second language. Have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye.